we're confirming our status as the first partners in science and technology, ready to define this century together.
Wait a minute. I realized that's on the wrong one. Is there no sound on this? Hold on.
High-skilled jobs in cutting-edge sectors where people can build careers for the long term, changing lives in communities up and down our country. And look, while we shape this bond for a new era, the fundamentals have not changed. Security remains the cornerstone of this special relationship. We have the deepest, most advanced defence relationship in the world. Our warriors train together and they fight together. Our industries build together, everything from fast jets to the new AUKUS-class submarines. So now, as we drive up defence spending, we're going to sweep away the barriers to working together on new defence technologies so we can stay ahead of our adversaries. We're united in defence and security, yes, absolutely. But we're also united in the pursuit of peace. We are working together to end the humanitarian catastrophe in the Middle East, get the aid in, free the hostages, and ultimately bring Israel and the region back towards a comprehensive plan which can deliver peace and security for Israelis and Palestinians alike. We're also working together to end the killing in Ukraine. In recent days, Putin has shown his true face, mounting the biggest attacks since the invasion began, with yet more bloodshed, yet more innocents killed, and unprecedented violations of NATO airspace. These are not the actions of someone who wants peace. So we've discussed today how we can build our defences further, support Ukraine, and decisively increase the pressure on Putin to get him to agree a peace deal that will last. And President Trump, you have led the way here, and we will continue to stand and work together for security and for peace. Mr. President, next year we'll celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States. We've come on a long journey together since 1776. But it's no exaggeration to say that the partnership our two nations have built has shaped the world from the beaches of Normandy to the founding of NATO, to the creation of technologies that have revolutionised our lives. Time and time again, it is British and American men and women side by side, changing the path of history and turning it towards our values, towards freedom, democracy, and the rule of law. In Britain, we take huge pride in that. And let's be clear, this relationship is not just about history, it's about the future. It's about the benefits it delivers now and for decades to come, to make our people safer and better off. We've shown today that we're delivering those benefits, improving people's lives. So we will go into that anniversary year more optimistic than ever and more confident than ever about our two great nations and what they can achieve side by side. Thank you. And it is now my pleasure to give the floor to Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much, very much. Prime Minister Starmer, Melania and I are tremendously thankful for the wonderful hospitality that you and Lady Starmer have extended today at Chequers. Quite the place, I must say, quite the place. And we're grateful beyond words for the spectacular honor of the state visit yesterday at Windsor Castle, hosted by His Majesty King Charles III and Her Majesty Queen Camilla. These are two fantastic people. We will never forget it. As I said last night, the bond between our countries is like no other anywhere in the world. The United States and the United Kingdom have done more good on this planet than any two nations in human history. That is thanks in large part to the traditions of British liberty, which grew up on these isles, these beautiful, magnificent isles, and were carried by our ancestors to the New World. We're forever joined, and we are forever friends, and we will always be friends. This enduring connection is why I was thrilled that the United Kingdom was the very first country with which we made a historic trade deal, and a very good trade deal. He's a tough negotiator. I think it was a better deal for you than us, but these are minor details.
It's a very good deal for both of us.
He's a great negotiator who will extend our unparalleled security alliance into the realm of economic security for the first time, and I look forward to finalizing it very soon. We'll have it done very quickly. We have also just signed a historic technology prosperity deal, one of a kind, to ensure our countries lead the next great technological revolution side by side. In fact, we just left the business leaders, the biggest in the world. Some are in this room right now. And that was quite a meeting we had on business and trade and technology. This trip has galvanized $350 billion in deals across many sectors, and we're committed to ensuring that the UK has a secure and reliable supply of the best AI hardware and software on Earth. And we supply that, and we'll make sure we supply it in quantity to the UK. And we also are joining forces on quantum computing and nuclear power, a natural partnership for close allies. The United States, as you probably have heard, is doing better than it has ever done in terms of business and investment. The stock market has hit a new high, as you know, and that's for many, many days out of our fairly short 8 months. And we seem to be hitting new highs, and I think we're going to do much better even as time goes by. Jobs are at a record, and most importantly, we have more than $17 trillion, $17 trillion, and this is during an 8-month period being invested in the country, which is not only a record, but if you compare $17 trillion to the last year of the Biden administration, they did $250 billion. They didn't do $1 trillion for the 4-year period. We did $17 trillion of investment coming in. A lot of it's because of tariffs, and a lot of it's for a lot of other reasons, but there's never been anything like it. It's an economic superstar. That's what's become. It was mismanaged and badly handled for a long period of time, but it's not badly handled anymore. So that's a record, and remember, that's up until 8 months. We have another few months to go, and that number is going to get significantly higher, especially if we win a certain case that we're waiting to hear. That will be something like the world has never seen. I want to congratulate the United Kingdom on making the vital commitment to spend 5% of GDP on defense at the NATO summit this year. We've worked together very closely in so many ways. I'm very honored to tell you that we've solved 7 wars, wars that were unsolvable, wars that couldn't be negotiated or done. The U.S. has done 7 of them. The one that I thought would be easiest would be because of my relationship with President Putin, but he's let me down. He's really let me down. It was going to be Russia and Ukraine, but we'll see how that turns out. But that turned out to be, I thought it might be among the easiest of the group. But we had settled just about every conflict, and as you know, we're working very hard on Israel and Gaza. All that's happening over there. Complex, but it's going to get done. It'll all get done right. And likewise, Russia and Ukraine will get done. But you never know in war. You know, war is a different thing. Things happen that are very opposite of what you thought. You thought you were going to have an easy time or a hard time, and it turns out to be the reverse. As we saw in the unforgettable parade yesterday at Windsor Castle, what a place it is. The British Armed Forces carry on one of the finest military traditions in the world, one of the greatest marching bands, one of the most magnificent sights I've seen. I know that our service members look forward, and we do look so forward, to working even more closely with yours as you push toward that 5% goal. And I think, Mr. Prime Minister, you're just about there. You're going to be there very quickly, along with a lot of other great countries. I want to thank NATO and our wonderful head of NATO, who's really worked very hard, Mark, for the job they've done. As you know, NATO was at 2% GDP, and they didn't pay it. Now they're at 5%, then they pay it. And we appreciate that. And we're sending a lot of weapons to NATO. NATO's paying for those weapons in full. But we're sending them, and we're doing a great job at getting them what they need. And we appreciate the fact that they're taking care of it, because the United States is into that war for $350 billion. And just really very sad. It just got out of control. They didn't know what they were doing. But over the generations, British and American warriors have shed their blood side by side in defense of liberty and freedom. And that's why it's so imperative that the United States and the United Kingdom stand together for these fundamental rights and values of the English-speaking world. And we've always stood together, and we will continue to. Just last week, a great American, Charlie Kirk, was heinously assassinated for speaking his mind. He was a great young man. Incredible future. Some people said he might be president someday. I told him, I said, Charlie, I think you have a good shot someday at being president. And he just wanted to take care of youth. He loved youth. I've never seen anybody relate to youth like Charlie. And they related to him, and they're devastated. But I appreciate the many British citizens who have offered their condolences. And again, Charlie was a great person. We'll be going out to a service on Sunday. I'll be leaving with some of the people in this room just to celebrate Charlie and all that he's done. So incredible. Never seen anything like it. But I hope that together our nations can lead a movement to defend the glorious traditions of freedom on both sides of the Atlantic. There could be no greater tribute to the immortal bonds of affection and loyalty that unite the British and the American people for all of time. We have a relationship like no other. It will always be that way. We will always be united. We'll always be together. And I just want to thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for the great job I think you're doing. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome to the screen, y'all.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We're going to take some questions. I'll call two or three to start with, and then I'll pass over to the President. I've got Chris Mason from the BBC first. Chris.
Thank you both. Chris Mason, BBC News. Mr. President, the UK is expected to recognise a Palestinian state in the coming days as the killing in Gaza continues. It often seems that you're the only person that Israel will listen to. What more can you say to them to tell them to stop? And why is the UK's position on a Palestinian state, in your view, wrong? And Prime Minister, what will the recognition of a Palestinian state actually achieve? Is it not just gesture politics to appease people in your own party? Thank you both.
Well, Chris, let me just start with that, because we discussed this amongst other things. We had the best part of an hour, I think, upstairs earlier today, just one-to-one, going through a number of affairs, world affairs, in private. And we absolutely agree on the need for peace and a roadmap, because the situation in Gaza is intolerable. The hostages have been held for a very, very long time, and they must be freed. And we need aid to get into Gaza at speed. And so it's within that context of a plan for peace, which we're working hard on, which not only did we discuss this morning, but our two teams have been working together on, that the question of recognition needs to be seen. And so it's part of that overall package which hopefully takes us from the appalling situation we're in now to the outcome of a safe and secure Israel, which we do not have, and a viable Palestinian state. Thank you.
Well, simply, I want the hostages released now, right now, not 1, 2, we'll give you 3 more tomorrow, and, like it's been, but we're the ones that got all the hostages released. We got many, many came to the Oval Office, and I've heard stories like I've never thought even possible. There was no humanity, no anything. I said to them, was there any warmth shown during this stay, like they offered you a little extra meal, they gave you a little smile, and they said, don't worry, you'll be okay. And every one of them said, not even a little bit. Amazing, to think that during this stay, long stay in some cases. We had a man the other day, 451 days he was there. I always ask that question. And was there any warmth shown? Just a little word of, encouragement. And the answer is every time, absolutely not. I'm shocked to hear it, because in the worst cases, there's always somebody that comes through. We have to remember October 7th, one of the worst, most violent days in the history of the world, not just there, the history of the world. And I got to see the tapes, and I wish I didn't see them, actually. But I got to see them. And I want an end. I want the hostages released. And I think it's going to be okay, but it has been a brutal period of time. But this has been going on for a long time. This is not something that's over the last year, 2 years, but this has been for decades and decades. But we want it to end. We have to have the hostages back immediately. That's what the people of Israel want. They want them back, and we want the fighting to stop, and it's going to stop. But a lot of bad things. Hamas said that they're going to put the hostages up as bait. They're going to put the hostages in front of any attack. And that's pretty brutal. We haven't heard that one in a long time. So we have to remember that. So I have a disagreement with the Prime Minister on that score. Okay? One of our few disagreements, actually.
Great. Can I take Jack from The Sun? Jack.
Thank you both. Jack Elson from The Sun. Mr. President, in the 9 months you've been in office, you've been incredibly successful in all but eliminating crossings on your southern border.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, illegal migration is at record levels in Britain. The Prime Minister is trying to tackle that. What advice would you give to the man standing next to you on trying to stop illegal migration in Britain? And Prime Minister, if I can just ask, the President is all about drill, baby, drill in terms of trying to secure American energy and cut bills for Americans. Meanwhile, you are turning Britain's back on oil and gas in favour of renewable energies, such as wind turbines. Why do you think that you are right and he is wrong?
So we had millions of people flowing in, totally unchecked, totally unvetted from the Biden administration. 25 million, in my opinion, that would be about 25 million. They came from prisons, they came from mental institutions, they were gang members, they were drug dealers. They came from the Congo. They came from all parts of South America. They came from everywhere. Think of it. Prisons from the Congo being released into the United States. Prisons opened up in Venezuela and many other countries pouring into the United States. And I couldn't believe it. One of the reasons I decided to
it's always a
run.
Congo.
I decided to run because I don't want to be controversial. But you see what's happened, and you see all the information that's come out. We won in 2020 big. And I said, let's run. We got to run, because I saw what was happening. And the worst thing that I saw was all of these people. We've already solved inflation. We've solved prices. Oil is way down. Energy is way down.
I don't know about that, Trump.
But what I saw happening with millions of people pouring into our country, I couldn't stand to watch it. And we've done a great job. Nobody, if you've seen the last, I appreciate your question, by the way, nobody, absolutely zero, and I'm not even sure that's possible, but it's a very liberal group that come out with those statistics. The last 3 months, we had zero. From millions of people a year ago, we had zero people enter our country illegally. And we do have people coming in legally through a legal process and testing and lots of other things. I think it's very important, and we speak about it, and I think your situation is very similar. You have people coming in. And I told the Prime Minister I would stop it, and it doesn't matter if you call out the military, it doesn't matter what means you use, but it's going to destroys countries from within. And we're actually now removing a lot of the people that came into our country. It's a very hard chore. We were given a very, very bad hand. Millions of people came in from prisons and mental institutions. We have to remove them. And we are removing them. We have no choice, and I feel very strongly about it. Thank you very much.
Jack, let me just deal with the question of returns, because this is obviously an issue we're taking incredibly seriously. We've struck a number of deals, both on cooperation with other countries, because this is a problem right across Europe, to tackle the problem of actually breaking up the gangs that are running this trade. We have had a record number of returns, over 35,000 now, since we came into office. That's the highest number for the best part of 10 years. We struck the returns arrangement with France, and notwithstanding the challenges to that scheme, which you've seen in the last few days, a flight went off at 6:15 this morning, successfully returning someone under that scheme. So that is an important step forward. Obviously, there's no silver bullet here. There's a range of things that need to be done. But given the challenges of returning people, it is important that we're able to prove it can be done. It was done. It was done early this morning. So I can confirm that that flight went. It went successfully. And I'm pleased about that. Now we need to ramp that up at scale, which was always envisaged under the scheme. But it's very important that we have been able to prove that the proof of concept, if you like, that this can be done, and will continue in that way. On the question of energy, firstly, let me be really clear that I am absolutely determined to ensure that the price and cost of energy comes down, so that bills come down both for individuals, for families, with their household bills, but also for business, because this is so important. The mix will include oil and gas for many years to come from the North Sea. We've been clear about that for some time, but we also need to mix that with renewables, and it's the mix that's really important. And the approach I've taken on this is the same approach that I take to many other things, a pragmatic approach. Thank you, Jack.
I would like to say that we inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country. We had inflation, the likes of which we've really never seen. They say 48 years, and I'll accept that, but I really don't. We had the worst inflation in the history of our country. And we had a expression that I used a lot, drill, baby, drill. And as you know, we brought fuel way down, the prices way down. And we don't do wind because wind is a disaster. It's a very expensive joke, frankly. And we got our energy prices way down. That brought the inflation way down, and now we have very little inflation, and we have a very, very strong economy. So that was very important. Drill, baby, drill. And you have a great asset here, and we spoke about it. It's called the North Sea. The North Sea oil is phenomenal, and I hope, because I love this country, you know. My mother was born in Scotland, and the Hebrides, Stornoway, that's serious Scotland. We were talking about it. And I want this country to do well. And you have great assets that you're going to start using, I believe, under this Prime Minister.
Thank you. And I've got Matthew from The Economist. Matthew.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Mr. President, you say that President Putin has let you down. Have negotiations run out of road, and what are your next steps to compel an end to this war?
Well, he has let me down. I mean, he's killing many people, and he's losing more people than he's killing. I mean, frankly, the Russian soldiers are being killed at a higher rate than the Ukrainian soldiers.
Uh-oh.
But
who don't want to hear that?
Yeah, he said, let me down. I don't like to see. It's death. You know, it doesn't affect the United States. We have, other than unless you end up in a world war over this thing, you could. This was a thing that would have never happened had I been president. If I were president, it would have never happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years. Most people agree it didn't happen, nor was it close to happening. And I spoke to President Putin about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. I've said that many times. It was. But he would have never done what he did, except that he didn't respect the leadership of the United States. They just went through the Afghanistan total disaster for no reason whatsoever. We're going to leave Afghanistan, but we're going to leave it with strength and dignity. And we're going to keep Bagram, the big air base, one of the biggest air bases in the world. We gave it to them for nothing. We're trying to get it back, by the way. Okay, that could be a little breaking news. We're trying to get it back. because they need things from us. We want that base back. But one of the reasons we want the base is, as you know, it's an hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. So a lot of things are happening, but I am very disappointed in the fact that that one's not settled. To think that we settled Azerbaijan and Albania as an example. It was going on for years. It was never going to be settled. If you remember, the Prime Minister and the presidents, they were there for many years. They said, when they were in my office, we settled. And they started off at both sides of the Oval Office, so far away. I didn't know you could be so far away. And as we were together for an hour, they kept getting closer, closer. And by the time we finished, we all hugged each other. And one said, I've been in this position for 22 years, and all I've done is kill their people. The other was there for 7 years, and all he did was kill their people. And we got it settled. And we did others, as you know. The Congo, we settled the Congo. Rwanda, that was going on, and that was a machete war. That was a gruesome war. Many people, close to 10 million people killed. We got that settled. My biggest disappointment, but it's, you know, look, we did 7, and most of them were not thought to be settleable. We did India and we did Pakistan. That's 2 nuclear. That was purely for trade. You want to trade with us, you're going to have to get along. And they were going at it hot and heavy. But the Russia situation,
Pause.
I hope we're going to have some good news for you coming
Pause
up.
that, Trump.
But again, it doesn't affect the United States. And look, it doesn't so much affect you. Of course, you are a lot closer to the scene than we are. We have a whole ocean separating us. But I will say this, it's millions of people have died in that war, millions of souls. And they're not American. They're soldiers, mostly soldiers, as you know. The soldiers are being killed at levels that nobody's seen since the Second World War. But they're being killed, and I feel I have an obligation to get it settled for that reason. Thank you.
And just to add on that question, because we have to put extra pressure on Putin. And it's only when the president has put pressure on Putin that he's actually shown any inclination to move. So we have to ramp that pressure up. I think it's important to have this conversation in the context of what's happened in recent weeks. We saw damage and bombing to the British Council in Keir. These are targets that it was thought until recently were not targets that would be hit. The British Council, the European Union Embassy, the Council of Ministers, where President Zelensky's ministers work was hit. Again, these were thought to be places that wouldn't be hit. And then the incursion into Poland last week. And if you put that together, what you can see is either an emboldenment or at least an increased recklessness on Putin's part. And that's why I said earlier that they're not the actions of someone who wants peace. So we have to ramp up. And we discussed earlier today, we have built the coalition of the willing with British leadership and French leadership, stepping up with military planning in the seas, in the sky, on the ground, and ramping up what we do with the Ukrainians themselves. And of course, that taken with an American guarantee is now an example, I think, of the challenge of Europe stepping up to the plate, which it has done in the last few months, to show through what we and the French have done that we're prepared to take the lead in this and take the necessary measures.
But that's a war that could have been a third world war, and I don't think we're going to be there now. But that was heading to a third world war, and what a shame it is. What a shame it is.
Mr. President, do you want to call some of the...
I would love to call a few of them. Bev, do you want to have a question?
I've got to come back to you.
Bev Turner, GB News. Thank you. Having been in DC for a few weeks, it's really interesting to see how you run the country as a proud Christian leader. And it really begs the question to the Prime Minister, if you don't mind, are we still a Christian country? But also...
Is UK, I know UK wasn't a Christian country?
Here. The UK. I'm still British. I might live in America. I'm still British. But also,
I can't give you that answer.
That's for the Prime Minister. But also,
UK
despite what we talked about in Scotland a few weeks ago, we still have 12,000 people a year here being arrested for social media posts, for free speech violations. Does that not remain an important area that there is still a lot of disagreement on?
I'd like to have you answer that.
Yeah, look, I mean, in terms of a Christian country, I was christened, so that is my church has been all my life, and we are, that is wired into our informal constitution. Of course, we celebrate many other faiths as well, and I'm really proud that we're able to do so as a country. And on free speech, that has long lived in this country, free speech. It's one of the founding values of the United Kingdom, and we protect it jealously and fiercely, and always will, and we will bear down on any limits on free speech. I draw a limit between free speech and the speech of those that want to peddle paedophilia and suicide social media to children, and therefore I'm all for free speech. I'm also for protecting children from things that will harm them.
That's very fair.
Paedophiles, those that peddle suicide, which has had a terrible consequence for individual, particularly teenagers. And so that's the balance we strike. But we have had freedom of speech in this country for a very long time, and we will always protect it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Brian, please.
Thank you. Prime Minister, it's good to see you again. You have a beautiful country. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for being
Two
here.
questions. One, just recently, President Trump labeled Antifa domestic terrorists. Would you consider doing something like that in your country?
Well, we obviously will take decisions for ourselves. I don't want to comment on the decisions of the President, but we take our decisions ourselves.
And my question to you, President Trump, is there any update on the auto pen?
Oh, here we go.
It's just gotten worse from their standpoint. The people that used it, and one in particular, one person, was never told by Biden to do it.
Oh, geez.
Only spoke to Biden twice, and that was just talking about the weather, not talking about any order. And he was taking orders from people other than Joe Biden. Joe Biden wasn't giving those orders. Joe Biden didn't believe in open borders. He didn't. I've known him for a long time.
That's the most positive thing he ever said about Joe Biden.
Brightest bulb in the ceiling.
In the past 10 years, at least.
You can go back 40 years ago and you'll see that. Go back and take a look at the hearings on Justice Thomas, and you'll see that very much. But he didn't believe in open borders and all of this nonsense that they're peddling now, which is why they're not in office any longer. It's a shame. The auto pen was illegal. It was illegally used. He never gave the orders. He never told them what to do. And I guess the only one he signed, or one of the few he signed, was the pardon for his son. But you had the congressman who, when they got the information, they found out they were guilty, and they deleted and destroyed all information, everything. You couldn't get any of it. They found out that Nancy Pelosi actually was offered the 10,000 soldiers, and she turned them down.
What?
They found out many things that were very bad. So they deleted and destroyed all information. You talk about freedom of the press and freedom of speech.
What is he even talking about?
And there's not a thing. This is after a year and a half of hearings. They destroyed everything. And
what about that?
Somebody's got to be held responsible. So Biden, what he did is they knew, I don't think he knew, but somebody knew. I don't think Biden had a clue about anything.
I hate pausing the president, but I'm going to do it real quick. Do you care more about the Epstein files or what they're talking about with Biden? Just real quick. I'm asking in the chat next question.
If you want to know the truth. But they gave a pardon to those Congress people. They gave a pardon. Those people are so guilty. They gave a pardon. But Biden didn't know about it. The people, whether it's Lisa or any of those people in there that really ran it, I know them all. And they're sick people. They're smart people. They're very smart. They're probably brilliant, but they're sick in ideology. And they were running the auto pen. And it was totally illegal what he did. And I hope it's going to be so adjudged.
Do you want to take one more, and then I'll go back to British?
Let's see. Peter, go ahead.
Thank you, President Trump. In the deal that you're working on for the Chinese to sell TikTok to an American buyer, are the Americans going to have to come up with their own algorithm, or are they going to continue to use these successful but addictive Chinese algorithm?
So what we're doing, and we're speaking to President Xi on Friday to see if we can finalize something on TikTok, because there is tremendous value, and I hate to give away value, but I like TikTok. It helped get me elected. In fact, Charlie said, "Sir, you ought to get on TikTok. You'd be great." I said, "Really? Tell me about TikTok." And we, as you know, we did unbelievably well with youth, like at a level that no Republican has ever even dreamt of. And in what, look, I think we won it for a lot of reasons, but that was a reason we won the election by such a big number. TikTok has tremendous value. The United States has that value in its hand because we're the ones that have to approve it. I specifically get the right to approve it. The people that are investing it are among the greatest investors in the world, the biggest, the richest, and they'll do a great job. And we're doing it in conjunction with China. But we are getting, the United States is getting a tremendous fee plus, I call it a fee plus, for just making the deal. And I don't want to throw that out the window. I can say this, that you'll have a lot of very unhappy youth. And I use TikTok very legitimately, very straight, just statements every day, little statements. Short statements. Sir, make it short, please. And TikTok Jack, we call him. He was pretty good. Did a good job for me, I guess. But no, I'd rather reap the benefits. I mean, the kind of money we're talking about is very substantial. And it'll be owned by all American investors and, the best investors and the, very rich people and companies are going to be owning it. Very, very straight, very legitimate companies, and really companies that love America. So they're going to be owning it. It's a big thing. And on a much bigger scale, and probably that's why we were able to get that, but on a much bigger scale, we're pretty close to a deal. We may do an extension with China, but it's an extension based on the same terms that we have right now, which are pretty good terms.
And my question for Prime Minister Starmer, if you feel so strongly about officially recognizing Palestine for statehood, why are you waiting for President Trump to leave the country? Why can't you just do it right now? And isn't there a risk in rewarding Hamas with that?
Well, let me be really clear about Hamas. They're a terrorist organisation who can have no part in any future governance in Palestine. And
there we go. Pat him on the back, Trump.
Get with
the program, bitch, is what he's saying.
We have extended family in Israel. I understand firsthand the psychological impact that had across Israel. So I know exactly where I stand in relation to Hamas. Hamas, of course, don't want a two-state solution. They don't want peace. They don't want a ceasefire. So I'm very clear where I stand on Hamas. Okay. On the question of recognition, I made my position clear at the end of July as to the timing, which has got nothing to do with this state visit, and I've discussed it with the President, as you would expect amongst two leaders who respect each other and like each other and want to bring about a better solution in the best way that we can. Thank you so much. Can I go back then to Robert at ITV?
Yeah, I'm trying to take this shit back over.
Person ITV. Mr. President, you uniquely, you alone in the whole world, have the power to persuade Prime Minister Netanyahu to stop the demolition of Gaza City, to stop the starvation of Palestine, and to stop the killing of civilians. If not now, when will you exercise that power and tell him to stop?
Sure.
And then for both of you...
But you do understand about October 7th.
You do understand. So believe me, I understand.
One of the worst days in the history of humanity. What happened, I have seen the tapes. Babies that are 4 months old and just chopped up to pieces. And you've seen the tapes and I've seen the tapes. You're a professional and so am I. And people forget about October 7th. I can't forget about it. So I want it to end, but I want the hostages back. I don't want the hostages used as human shields, which is what Hamas is threatening to do.
But as soon as they're back, that's the moment you will tell Netanyahu
to stop.
Well,
it would certainly help, but I have to have the hostages back. And I don't want them back piecemeal, as I said before. I want them back.
And on a separate issue, free speech, your Vice President Vance said that free speech is under attack in the UK. Do you agree with him? And Prime Minister, we saw the dismissal of a very well-known chat show host in America last night, Mr. Kimmel. Is free speech more under attack in Britain or America?
Well, Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So,
that's crazy.
You can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, firstly,
that's
on
crazy.
the question of Charlie Kirk, can I just express how shocking that is, I think, to everybody who believes in free speech and in democracy. It sent shockwaves through the world. And I know that he was a friend of the president, and I reached out straight away to the president because I understood how impactful it would be on him and his family. And we all need to be absolutely clear about that. Whatever our political views, it is shocking and is to be condemned. On free speech, not much to add to the answer I gave earlier.
Hey, yeah, y'all drop some likes. I was going to wait to say something. Appreciate you.
Long time. It is part of who we are as a country, and it is the values that we fought for. We fought for it during the Second World War alongside each other. So we need no reminding of the importance of free speech in this country. Thank you, Robert. And I go to Beth for the final question, please. Beth.
Final question.
Thank you so much.
Sky.
Thank you, Beth Rigby, Sky News. Thank you, Prime Minister. If I could start with you. Prime Minister, President Trump has said he's ready to impose major sanctions on Russia if NATO countries stop purchasing Russian oil. He's got a point, hasn't he? Is that what you now believe is needed to bring Putin properly to the table? And what's your message to the President on US sanctions? And Mr. President, if I may, the King praised your personal commitment last night to finding solutions to the world's most intractable conflicts. You have invested much of your time and effort in Ukraine. But even as you seek to broker a deal, President Putin is escalating the war. He's firing drones into NATO airspace. You say he has let you down. Was it a mistake to invite him to Alaska? Do you regret it?
No.
And is it time to?
I'm trying to show both of them until one of them speaking. So when one of them speaking, I got whoever said it.
Finally, if I may, the elephant in the room, Lord Mandelson.
Well, you can keep
he is no longer the ambassador. Do you have some sympathy with him that he lost his job over historic links to Jeffrey Epstein? Thank you very much, sir.
I don't know him, actually. I had heard that, and I think maybe the Prime Minister would be better speaking of that. That was a choice that he made, and I don't know. What is your answer to that?
Well, I mean, it's very straightforward. Some information came to light last week which wasn't available when he was appointed, and I made a decision about it, and that's very clear. On the question of the pressure on Putin and on Russia, which is obviously really important. Look, I think it is a challenge to Europe. There are a number of European countries which are too reliant on energy from Russia.
I'm an idiot. Sending y'all ain't subscribed yet? That's crazy.
Obviously, has almost got nothing at all. But we do need to bear down and work with our European counterparts here. There are one or two countries, I think, that do need to look again at the question of energy. There's no one silver bullet here. We do have to have a wider suite of sanctions, which we've put in place a number of times, working across Europe and with the United States. And, of course, we must, and we are, making sure that Ukraine is in the strongest position now, because one of my long concerns here has been that whilst we talk about a ceasefire, and we all want a ceasefire, and we talk about what might happen after a ceasefire, we mustn't forget that Ukraine needs our support now, and we've said we stand with Ukraine from the start to the finish, and that means we must continue to supply them with what they need in order to fight this war, which, of course, resulted from and is a result of Russian aggression. We have particularly done the sort of leadership role in the coalition of the willing, so that if there is a ceasefire and if there is a deal, and I do hope there is, that is then lasting and not then broken, because given previous history, I don't trust Putin. Thank you.
Very simply, if the price of oil comes down, Putin's going to drop out. He's going to have no choice. He's going to drop out of that war. And when I found out that the European nations were buying oil from Russia, and as you know, I'm very close to India. I'm very close to the Prime Minister of India. I spoke to him the other day, wished him a happy birthday. We have a very good relationship. He put out a beautiful statement, too. We have But I said, I sanctioned them. China is paying a very large tariff right now to the United States. But I'm willing to do other things, but not when the people that I'm fighting for are buying oil from Russia. If the oil price comes down, very simply, Russia will settle. And the oil price is way down. We got it way down. We're drilling and we produce more oil than anybody else in the world. We're doing a lot. But I was disappointed to see that. And the Prime Minister was disappointed to see that. And it wasn't him. It was other countries. And you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't. That's not playing fair with the United States. And we can't have that. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That wraps up the Trump press conference with the Prime Minister of the UK, PM Starmer. Real quick, I haven't really done intro today. If you are live watching me first time on TikTok, YouTube, I have a canvas and a vertical stream on YouTube right now, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. I think that's all the places we're streaming at right now. I want to thank you for tapping in. I am the hip hop lobbyist. I'm a professional lobbyist in the state of Florida. I've been doing it for 15 years. I never wanted to work in politics. I kind of fell into it. And I started this channel, really I started posting more around April. We had roughly 400 followers, right? 400 subscribers. And for some reason I posted, we've engaged people, and we skyrocketed to over 5,000 subscribers. We actually passed 5,500 subscribers yesterday. So more than anything, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day, tapping in. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. We're going to shift over, as I have the full screen here, I'm going to shift over to the next one, which is the mayor of DC speaking before the House committee. Now, I want to stop here. Now, it was live. I had to pause it because one of the homies, Greg Jackson, used to be in the Biden White House. He is also on the panel today with the DC mayor. I'm going to go to see what Greg has to say, get a clip for that I could drop on IG and say, hey, Greg, we seen you testify before Congress today. Got to shout out the homies for what it is, support. And then from there, we're going to go. Let me actually make this full screen again. We're going to go from there. Hold on. And listen to the rest of the mayor of DC talk about what's happening in DC regarding crime, Trump, the National Guard, and everything. But again, I have a new sub. Let me shout out the new subs. I appreciate y'all for taking the time out today and the donation. Theo Stock, I appreciate you tapping in. Brandy, also support. Thank you for the support as well. Really do love it. First time here again. Thank you for liking and subscribing to the channel. My biggest goal here is to help talk politics from someone who actually has done it. And I'm a Democrat, respectfully, because I know I get a lot of, hey, you're Uncle Tom, you're a black Republican, you're MAGA. No, I'm actually a Democrat. I've actually helped elect Democrats to the United States Congress in state elected offices in the state of Florida. Mayors, county commissioners, school board members, whatever you want to say, I've helped them, right? And a part of it is I also work collectively at the same time. Ron DeSantis, America's governor, was banning African-American history, AP African-American studies in the state of Florida. I was helping get a lot of African-American youth programs funding in that same budget cycle. So either way, I don't really describe to the bullshit. I'm more moderate than I am super liberal, and I have some conservative values. I'm also a first-generation American. So when they talk about foundational black Americans and the issue of Caribbean Americans, immigrants, whatever, my grandmother came to the country in the 60s to help, improve our family lineage, right? And she sponsored citizenship for our family to be here. And I'm a first generation born here, half Jamaican, half American. It's part of my story, but it is what it is. But let's not get into me. Make sure you like and subscribe for what it is. But let's get into the mayor of DC. We're going to see what my homeboy Greg Jackson has to say, and then we'll get on with the rest of the day. I appreciate y'all typing in for the stream today. This good Thursday morning. Hold on, my bad. I had a mess up there. I didn't realize he was still muted, bro. My bad. Let me go back. I did I'm streaming, but I'm not a pro streamer. As you can see, that was a nice little rookie mistake. So let me let my dog do it.
Thank you.
Y'all didn't hear it the first time.
Ranking Member Garcia, Congresswoman Norton, and the committee for having me. I'm Greg Jackson, a DC resident, a survivor of gun violence, and the former deputy director for the first ever White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention. This was an office that coordinated federal resources, implemented life-saving policies, and coordinated with local leaders to achieve a 13.2% reduction in violent crime and a 31% reduction in homicides nationwide in just 2 years. I spent the last decade of my life working to address this crisis, from consoling a mother who lost her 10-year-old who was buying ice cream in D.C., to walking the hallways in Parkland with families that have lost their loved ones to school shootings. And we've seen firsthand how this is destroying too many families in our country. This is now the leading cause of death for youth in America, the leading cause of death for pregnant women in America, and now the leading cause of newly disabled Americans. With 1 in 5 Americans being impacted by this violence, this is also personal for me. I'm a survivor of gun violence, as I was shot in the arteries. I've also lost my teenage mentee, DeMarcos, from a shooting, and I've also sat with families throughout this district. Despite this crisis we face, the last few years have shown us that we do have solutions that work. In the previous 2 years, D.C. and cities across the country have seen historic reductions in gun violence without the deployment of masked agents or the military. We did this by investing in prevention and intervention efforts to communities at risk, and strategically investing in law enforcement to keep illegal guns off of our streets and to close homicides. Recently, even the current FBI director, Kash Patel, celebrated historic levels or historic reductions in violent crime. But we know that's not the product of a few months of troops or FBI actions. They are the result of billions in prevention resources, law enforcement, and community leaders risking their lives every day, as well as the transformative policies implemented over the last few years. Without masked agents and troop deployments, we've seen homicides drop 54% in Baltimore, 20% in Atlanta, 41% in Phoenix, 27% in Los Angeles, and as shared by district leadership, violent crime in D.C. is down by 53%. We got here in major part because Republicans and Democrats came together to enact a bipartisan law that provided historic resources for violence prevention, law enforcement strategies, as well as enhanced our background check system for those under 21, preventing domestic abusers from accessing guns, making the largest investment in youth mental health in history, as well as community violence intervention, and making gun trafficking a federal crime, prosecuting those who are flooding guns into our communities. These strategies, in partnership with local leaders, reduced homicides again by 31% and mass shootings by 20% in our country. As our communities have been fighting our way out of this crisis, we find ourselves at a dangerous crossroad. Instead of adding more federal resources to solutions that work, the Trump administration has dismantled and defunded bipartisan strategies passed into law to reduce violence. They shut down the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention. They defunded law enforcement, including the ATF. They cut over $1 billion in mental health resources for our schools, terminated $812 million in funding for community violence intervention programs, defunded gun violence research, shut down the CDC Firearm Injury Center, dismantled important regulations like the zero tolerance policy for gun dealers, and now plans to further defund critical resources to address the root causes of violence like housing, employment, and health care.
Well, see, and this is where I got to pause it, all right? This is where I disagree with Greg. And as a friend, I disagree with him, right? Because he didn't mention education. To me, education is the pinnacle to the rest of this shit. You can't get the rest of these building blocks, Greg, without this. And all due respect, this is a homie, right? You can have I think, foundational disagreement and still be on the same fight together, right? I think that if we're going to address gun violence and we're going to address crimes and housing and health, we got to teach motherfuckers how to read. Teach these kids how to read. And it's like the educational part of where we need to invest in our kids can't just be, hey, government, come into our communities, throw money at these intervention programs, throw money at these, whatever we feel is going to fix the crack babies from the 80s that had kids and now they're post-pandemic babies, all the rest of this shit, right? We've seen the generation of the same narrative. I think it goes to a fact of we're still struggling with the basics of education. And I think the basics of education help derail the rest of this bullshit. Just my 2 cents. But that's my man, Greg Jackson. Again, disagree with him here, but he's still the home. We can respectfully disagree on the issue because I don't think the 3 things he highlighted really fix any things that really are the underlying issues in the black community. My 2 cents. Thank y'all for tapping in. Let me get back to Greg. Hold on. He's speaking before Congress, not me. Y'all on my stream, though. So I appreciate y'all watching me, but I'm watching the homies.
DC local tax dollars undermining our leadership and flooding our neighborhoods with military to instill fear in everyday Americans. Look, I live in Ward 8, a community that the White House has called a slum. But for us, this is a neighborhood where we walk our dogs, we listen to jazz on Sundays, we grill out during the summers, and most importantly, like any neighborhood, we support each other. But since this D.C. Trump takeover, we hear sirens nightly. We've seen buildings raided daily.
Greg, no, I'm not talking about the raids. You hear sirens in D.C. every night, bro. Let's be for real.
Now even traffic
let's be fucking for real.
From the flood of police and military on our streets. This deployment of federal troops that's essentially making us feel
appreciate you, Sarah.
In our own homes is not the federal support we need. And most importantly, it's costly, costing our country an estimated $200 million for one city alone. To be tough on crime, we need a different approach. We need a federal law enforcement that focuses on keeping guns out of our communities in the first place. We need to be tough on crime by fully funding the ATF to catch gun traffickers, to shut down rogue gun dealers, to disrupt dangerous black markets of firearms. To be tough on crime, we need to protect and fund the bipartisan Safer Communities Act that was passed.
The issue I have with that, no bullshit, Greg, I'm speaking to my dog Greg right now, is that when you fund the ATF more, you know they coming in black communities to get them AKs and them choppers that everybody got in these hoods, right? They're going down to Liberty City. They're going to go down to the A. They're going to go, you said Phoenix earlier, right? They're going to go to Detroit. They're going to go bust in all the black communities and get the guns. So let's be for real. We're talking about something. Let's think about the implications of what we're actually pushing out here, bro. That's all I'm trying to say. Let's be for real.
And it's working. To be tough on crime, we must hold the billionaires accountable that have put weapons from the battlefield into our backyards. And to be tough on crime, we must fund resources for communities that are most at risk to prevent violence before it happens. We have real solutions to save lives from gun violence and reduce violent crime, and now is the time to protect that progress and continue to build on that momentum. Thank you. And Chairman, if you will, I do want to request, we had a really terrible tragedy last night where 5 officers were shot and 3 were lost, and I would kindly like to request we honor them with a moment of silence.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, my moment was a little shorter than this. My apologies there to the chat. Appreciate y'all not chatting during the moment of silence. But like I said, I want to hear the homie Greg talk, but they've actually gone forward. So I don't want to hold us up and be like super delayed because the mayor of DC speaking. Again, this is the homie Greg Jackson Jr. Make sure you follow him on Instagram and all his social media. This man is very active in gun violence prevention. Unfortunately, he is a victim of gun violence, but he has taken the story. He hasn't become a victim to say, hey, you know, look what happened to me, tragedy. He's actually going out there and impacting lives. I want to salute my brother. Again, he's been on the streets of Parkland after that happened and countless other shootings, I would say, tragedies that have happened. He's been on the front lines fighting for some kind of justice and also served in the Biden White House for the gun prevention as well. I don't have the official name of it, but salute the homie for what he's doing. It's always great. Let's get back to it, though. I'm going to skip forward. This is the mayor. This is the mayor that had her city ran through by President Trump. And I'll be honest with you, the last picture I seen, she had the twist, and I really like the twist. But my girl is flowing. Clock it. Mayor Bowser, she's doing the thing. Let's go to it though. But before we get there, make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already.
Ironic that the same people who cut $1.1 billion out of your budget 4 months later are saying, we're going to take over the city because you're not taking care of law enforcement.
That's correct, Congressman. And it was especially problematic because it came mid-year. To cut $1 billion with 12 months is bad enough, but to cut it with 6 months, it's almost impossible.
And Mayor, tell me where that $1.1 billion, where did it come from?
What is this?
It came from every one of our sectors. And when you have to cut that much money.
The source, was that from D.C. taxpayers?
100% local dollars.
Okay, so they cut $1.1 billion of the tax money paid by D.C. residents.
That's correct.
They cut that from your budget so that you can't provide as much law enforcement and police officers to patrol these streets. Is that right?
That's right.
And Chairman Mendelson, you mentioned earlier that it had about $83 million underfunding of the police department directly. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's an emergency planning and security fund that Congress appropriates every year for. It is supposed to fully reimburse our MPD for its work in connection with the federal presence, whether it's demonstrations or escorts for the.
I get it. There's a protest down here every week, every couple of days. So I compliment you on your ability to try to deal with that. And that's not DC's problem. That's the country, because this is the place we come to exercise our First Amendment rights to petition our government. So that's a lot of your problem, is the fact that you are our nation's capital, and this is where we come to complain, right? We complain to our federal government, and you have to deal with that. Attorney General Schwab, are you familiar with the Posse Comitatus Act?
I am, sir.
Your mic is not on.
Yes, the Posse Comitatus Act is a law, long-standing law in our country that makes clear that in our country, military are not engaged in policing American citizens on American soil.
Absolutely, but isn't that what President Trump is doing right now, bringing in the military to police the civilian population in this district? That's exactly what he's doing. Is that your view as well?
How you doing?
Sir, I filed a lawsuit that involves that very issue in terms of the legality.
I read that. That's why I asked you the question.
And so while a lawsuit is pending, I'm not going to talk about the specifics of the lawsuit or the merits of it, but I am very concerned about the law of our country being followed, especially when it puts the district and district residents in harm's way.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Look, so now we have armed military on the streets here in D.C. because they cut your budget so you can't hire more police, and also to recruit more police officers. That's suffering as well. And yet I see that not only is the military being politicized, coming in here and supporting one president's agenda, but they're also suffering the humiliation of having to go pick up trash and do landscaping and spreading mulch, things like that. That is not what we ask of our sons and daughters when they put on that uniform. We should treat them with more respect than this president is treating them right now. Madam Mayor, how many additional police officers do you think you could hire with that $1.1 billion that was cut from your budget?
Well, we think we can safely hire up to 300 officers per year. We know that we can add to our recruitment bonuses. We know that we can invest in the types of things that young officers want, like take-home patrol cars, like updated training facilities, and improved district headquarters.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, my time has expired. I yield back.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Dr. Fox from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor Bowser, I'm going to ask you a simple question based on the question you were just asked. Do you commit to use all that money to hire law enforcement people?
We commit to using it for law where it was cut primarily. We have
I just need to know yes or no. Will you, because you're making a big deal about wanting that money for law enforcement. Would you use it for law enforcement, yes or no?
Well, Congressman, we want the money because it was approved by this Congress and it's our money.
Thank you.
We want it for law enforcement.
I take that as a no.
We want it for fire and EMS.
Mayor Bowser,
we want
it to change the way I'm asking you questions. Mayor Bowser, it's my time. It's my time.
There'll be order in here. Let Dr. Fox has the time. Let Dr. Fox proceed, Dr. Fox.
Mayor Bowser, do you agree that a key part of reducing juvenile crime is by improving education outcomes for students in Washington, D.C.?
Yes.
Good.
You frustrated?
So you believe that education is important for reducing juvenile crime. Do you also agree that the D.C. Opportunity Scholarship Program, or D.C. OSP, which expands educational opportunities for low-income families, plays a part of helping us reach that goal?
We have a system of choice here that includes opportunity scholarships, public charter schools, and traditional public schools.
Yes, ma'am. I'm
All three.
quite familiar with that.
Yep.
So we know students in the DC OSP can receive a high-quality education while they may be otherwise left behind in the horribly underperforming schools in DC. This program provides real school choices for families, been repeatedly studied and evaluated. The results show that participants in the program thrive and see higher rates of high school graduation and the pursuit of higher education. Mayor Bowser, given the recent spike in juvenile crime in the city, I hope we can agree it's more important now than ever that school children have pathways to succeed and learn in safe, high-performing schools. What is your administration doing to ensure students have access to alternative education programs, including the DC OSP, to keep them engaged and on track?
Well, we have been very supportive of the SOAR Act, and we encourage this Congress to continue to support SOAR, where we invest in all sectors, including the Opportunity Scholarship Fund. We're also very proud that when we look back over 15 years in our investments in school reform with mayoral control of the schools and council oversight of the schools, we've seen enrollment in our schools nearly reach 100,000. We've seen achievement outpace our peer schools across the nation, and our children have rebounded from COVID learning loss faster than most.
Thank you.
And our residents are responding.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, I just was going to add that our residents are responding by sending their children to their neighborhood schools. And that is a marker of success.
Thank you. Chairman Mendelson, given that better educational opportunities are strongly correlated with reductions in juvenile crime, what immediate steps is the City Council taking to ensure that DC youth have the best educational opportunities and are not left behind in failing schools?
Well, Congresswoman, thank you for that question. The council has actually taken a number of steps to ensure that funding is not cut to our local schools, that the individual schools in DCPS and in the charter schools are fully funded. We have been very aggressive in ensuring that. But I want to note that the legislation that was passed would have the effect of cutting DCPS by $17.5 million a year. That is hurting kids, hurting 50,000 kids in our DCPS system because they will get $17.5 million less, and that is substantial.
Thank you. A.G. Schwab, what evidence does your office have that designated juvenile curfew zones have successfully reduced incidents of teenagers roaming or causing disturbances in residential neighborhoods, and how are those results measured?
We have seen, and I support the chief's use of curfew with respect to juveniles. The way the curfew has been used here in the district is a tool for the MPD to ask young people to disperse if there are large groups of them. That has been largely successful. If youth have not dispersed in response to the MPD request, MPD will occasionally pick those youth up and bring them to what's called our Youth Services Center, where their parents are called and they're brought home. We have not seen an increase in prosecution related to curfew, but we know anecdotally that the curfew, at least as a short-term measure, has been effective in dispersing large crowds of young people.
Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask for unanimous consent.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record a article from Vox News entitled "Laboratories of Democracy: Washington, D.C. showed how to do universal pre-K right. D.C. offers free pre-K for toddlers. The ripple effects have helped K through 12 schools."
My bad, y'all. I didn't realize I scrolled on another channel. My bad, I'm tripping.
Pre-K in the country.
My apologies there, y'all.
And leading the way.
Stansbury, no tryouts for MSNBC. Chair recognizes, and before I recognize Mr. Christian Morte, if I may.
Sorry about that, y'all.
That $1 billion
Well, it's like 100-something people doing that.
Continuing resolution that we're going to vote on tomorrow.
It hasn't been taken up. The Senate took it up a long time ago, and this House has
I've been a
refused to take that
proponent
up.
for that.
So let's not talk about what we're going to do. Let's talk about what we've done.
There's not a camera angle with the congressional committee, because this is wild.
I haven't read it. I haven't read it.
I can just see this argument in real time. It is snapping
I'll
off.
send you the text. Chair recognizes Mr. Krishnamurti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Though we're here today to discuss President Trump's takeover of D.C. law enforcement, Chicago, which I represent, is also on crime. It's Trump's about politics. President Just Trump is this week, demonized Trump and calls said, Chicago quote, a, I'm quote, going to hellhole. Chicago early against Pritzker.
found one.
Pritzker is nothing. That's not how a president should be talking about any governor or any state. I'd like to talk about the National Guard deployment here in D.C. and the
I'll bet on that again. Y'all had to
Mr.
find a better
Jackson, as you
strand.
said, I believe that the D.C. deployment is going to cost over $200 million, correct?
Correct. That's a projection.
Let's see how this money is being used. Trump says it's for fighting crime, but here's a guardsman carrying trash. Here's a guardsman mowing the lawn. Here's a very nice gentleman, a guardsman carrying a leaf blower.
That's crazy.
Honorable work, certainly.
That's
but
crazy.
This is not why the taxpayers fund the National Guard.
That's
If Trump was
absolutely
serious
wild.
about crime, he wouldn't cut nearly $4 million in federal funding for local violence prevention groups in Chicago. Attorney General, you'd agree the president should be funding these crime prevention programs, not cutting them, right?
As I said in my testimony, sir, prosecution and prevention are both essential to making sure cities are safe, and we have to do both. Crime intervention work, violence intervention work has been successful here in the District of Columbia in terms
You shouldn't be cutting that
of
work,
driving
right?
gun violence down. We need to invest in it.
Not cut it, right?
Correct.
This week, I want to turn to another topic. In Elgin, a Chicago suburb in my district, an American citizen was pulled from his home, cuffed, and detained by ICE. And another U.S. citizen in Des Plaines, also in my district, was tased in the face and detained in another ICE operation. This is shameful, and I'm extremely concerned about the safety and well-being of my constituents. I'm also concerned about the devastating impact
Oh, I got a technical issue. Hold on, y'all. I see the problem. Thanks for checking the chat. This is a, what do I have to do again? Hold on, y'all. This is technical difficulty.
Side politics and hostility toward governors and elected officials. Let's not take actions that hurt families and the economy. I'd like to turn to my final topic, and that's domestic violence. Attorney General Schwab, according to The Hill, President Trump suggested that, quote, a little fight with the wife shouldn't count in D.C. crime stats. You don't dispute The Hill.
I don't know why that happened.
Right?
I saw that.
But there's nothing little about 12,000 victims of domestic violence in D.C. or nothing little about 50,000 Illinoisans experiencing domestic violence, correct?
No, it's a very serious crime.
There's nothing little about 12,000 children, more than 12,000 children who witnessed domestic violence in Chicago either, right?
It's traumatizing.
It's abhorrent that the president routinely dismisses violence faced by women. And given his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, this attitude, unfortunately, comes as no surprise. Let's be clear. There's nothing little about domestic violence, not the scale of the problem or the courage of the survivors. I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Higgins from Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman
I hate
from
to say
Ohio,
performance
Mr.
because the
Jordan.
topic
I
you're talking
thank the
about,
gentleman
but
for
some of this
yielding.
shit
On
just
August
be like
11th,
extra, bro. Like, what?
2025, the day the president took action here in D.C., Councilman Allen said this: the president taking over local control of the MPD and putting the U.S. military onto the streets of D.C. under the guise of public safety is wrong. It's an extreme, outrageous, and dangerous move for our city and the safety of our residents. Do you agree with that statement by Councilmember Allen, Attorney General Schwab?
I do believe that the presence of thousands of armed troops in the district has been a problem and counterproductive for public safety in the district.
Counterproductive, dangerous. He said the second sentence, dangerous move for our city and the safety of our residents. How is 85% reduction in carjackings dangerous for the city, for the city's
I don't
residents?
believe that
Chairman Mendelson, do you believe that, do you agree with Mr.
You got a
Councilman
lot of
Allen's
these narratives,
statement?
boy.
Well, if the question is about the National Guard reducing carjackings, I don't think the National Guard was involved in reducing carjackings.
I'm asking about this statement. Do you agree with Chairman Councilman Allen's statement?
Could you repeat the statement again?
President taking over local control of the MPD and the U.S. military on the streets of D.C. under the guise of public safety is wrong. It's dangerous, outrageous, and extreme move for our city and the safety of our residents.
If you'll recall, at the time that he said that, the order from
said
the
that the
attorney,
day it happened.
Yes, the order from the Attorney General was that all orders within MPD would have to be approved by.
How about you, Mayor? Do you agree with the councilman's statement?
Why are you cutting the man off,
Jim?
Jim?
By the DEA. I know, but I didn't finish my sentence.
Oh,
It has to be
go.
approved by the DEA.
Mayor
That's
Bowser, do you
complete
agree?
disorganization.
The mayor.
Mr. Jordan, I think this statement is not what happened, actually.
Let's go, ma'am.
So the Home Rule Charter allows the president to make requests of MPD through the mayor. It does not allow the president to take over MPD, which at no time happened.
Oh, let's go. Oh, turn
I'll
off.
just point out that it seems to me you disagree because you said just 2 weeks ago, we greatly appreciate the surge of officers that enhance what MPD has been able to do with the city. We know that when carjackings go down, when gun use goes down, when homicide or robbery go down, neighborhoods feel safer. So it's like Councilman Allen doesn't know what he's talking about. Looks like you disagree with it.
We, having more officers enhance the effectiveness of MPD allowed us to accelerate crime reduction.
Representative Higgins.
Oh yeah, we said it. We satisfied. We said we good. We good.
Chairman, I think
That was a good one, y'all. That was a good one. We got him. We got him when we need him. Hey, that was good. That was a good little tussle. Make sure you like and subscribe, man.
DC.
Hey, that was a good one. That was a good
As a
one.
body,
You held it.
Congress, from the Republican side of the aisle, because there's a fundamental difference between the ideological perspective of the elected officials of D.C. and the majority of Americans across the country. And this is their nation's capital. And we can admit that. It's okay to have ideological variances. The city of D.C. plays a special role, and it's our nation's capital. So there needn't be this level of friction when we're discussing variances of political and social opinion that exist within our own family. But this battle about the authority of Congress within our nation's capital and over our nation's capital that doesn't have to be a fight. The Congress shall have the power to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district. The indispensable necessity of complete authority at the seat of government carries its own evidence with it. This is baked into the birth of our country. And I have respect for the process that has elected you, good lady, and you, gentlemen. And I very much respect you, Sir Mr. Jackson, of everybody here. You're plugged into the reality of the street. And I would like to talk to you further about some of the programs that you embrace.
That's what I'm talking about. Big Greg, dog. Shout out to Greg
not
Jackson.
Elected guys with scripted answers scrubbed by attorneys. You're for real. And I'd like to talk
That's
to
what
you
I'm talking about, Greg.
I was happy to yield much of my time to the gentleman from Ohio. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for convening this hearing, and I yield my time.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
great.
Higgins.
Chair, I request unanimous consent.
Okay.
I request unanimous consent to enter into the record this August 20, 22nd, 2025 article from CNN titled "GOP Governors Are Sending Troops to D.C. Their states have 10 cities with higher crime rates," which shows the blatant hypocrisy of the GOP when their states have higher crime rates.
Without objection, so ordered.
And yet choose to pretend.
Chair recognizes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you and the Vice Chair for convening us, the ranking member, I should say. Madam Mayor, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
And you have a very tough job, and it goes without saying that the 800-pound gorilla in this room is a realization that you're fighting with one hand tied behind your back, and you're strapped in as a result of policies and rulings and law that prevent you in many instances from being the mayor that you want to be every day without being constrained. So I just want to say that on the record. It's easy for a lot of people to point fingers, but until you sat in that seat and had to make those decisions, it's very difficult. And one of your arms have been tied behind your back. Let's make no mistake about that. I want to thank all of you who are here, but one thing that I want to do is to go back and underscore the comments of Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton. I brought this up at the last meeting that we had here on the District of Columbia, and that is the fact that at the end of the day, so much of this can be traced back to the imposition of policy on a governed people without their participation. Let me repeat that. The imposition of policy without participation by the citizens, the Americans. It's just as it was with the Boston Tea Party. It comes down to taxation without representation. When you can't even fight for yourself, stand for yourself, vote for yourself, that's wrong. That's wrong. In 1973, let's get some of this on the record so that we have some perspective. D.C. got the Home Rule Act, and you were able to elect your first mayor and your first city council. And Walter Washington transitioned from his previous position to be that first elected mayor. In 1978, some of you will remember that full congressional representation was in the form of an amendment, and that amendment failed because you couldn't get.
Shout out, where does Mfume represent? Congressman Mfume is back, and he's representing the 7th District of Maryland.
Voters here in the District of Columbia voted to approve a constitution for a new state. Some of you will recall that was called the New Columbia. And yet it was ignored by this Congress over and over and over again. Marion Barry came up here on this hill so many times to make the argument for the people of Washington that fairness has to be fair. It just can't be proportioned out when we feel like it. In 1990, Congressman Walter Fauntroy, myself, Marion, Jesse Jackson, and so many others put together freedom train rides from D.C. to New England, making a stop in each city along the way, making the case for statehood, and urging Americans up and down the coast to support it. In 1993, I was proud, along with your current delegate, to vote for the first D.C. statehood bill here in the Congress. And let me just point out one thing. Not one Republican voted for that bill. And that bill went down. It went down after a great deal of fight by a vote of 153 to 277. 2016, D.C. voters voted to approve a statehood referendum. The people voted 86% to approve that. This Congress ignored it. In 2020, the 116th Congress, H.R. 51 became the next statehood bill. It was defeated. And the following year, in the 117th Congress, we came back with the same bill. It was defeated again without any votes or representation from the other side. So I
won't hold you, man. This is kind of boring. What I'm gonna flip to right quick. I thought it would be more engaging, but it's not really. I'll keep it in the background running, but I'm gonna go to former President Barack Obama speaking about Let me get Kwame Nkrumah off. Yeah, I'm gonna just mute that. I'm gonna go to President Barack Obama here. Speaking about the Charlie Kirk assassination, I started watching it last night, but really didn't get all the way into it. Really, because my son, Tyler, if you're first time here, you probably don't know, I'm a father and a husband as well. So my son was basically taking my attention. Like, his sleep schedule's been thrown off, so it's thrown off my schedule and my wife's sleep schedule as well. But either way, let's get into here. Let's hear what President Obama has to say. Am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Thank God. Thought I was talking to myself. Let's get into President Obama and get this party started.
Well, speaking of the events of the world, you are in Pennsylvania, as you know, earlier this year, the governor's mansion, the subject of an arson attack, the tragedy in Minnesota back in June, the horrific murder in Utah of a conservative activist. Are we at an inflection point in our country? Where are we today?
Well, we are certainly at an inflection point, not just around political violence, but there are a host of larger trends that we have to be concerned about. I think it is important for us at the outset to acknowledge that political violence is not new. It has happened at certain periods in our history. But it is something that it is anathema to what it means to be a democratic country. And regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, what happened to Charlie Kirk was horrific and a tragedy. What happened, as you mentioned, to the state legislators in Minnesota, that is horrific. It is a tragedy. And there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The central premise of our democratic system is that we have to be able to disagree and have sometimes really contentious debates without resort to violence. And when it happens to some, but even if you think they're quote unquote on the other side of the argument, that's a threat to all of us. And we have to be clear and forthright in condemning it. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't have a debate about the ideas that people who were victims of political violence, confusion, I think, around this lately, and frankly, coming from the White House and some of the other positions of authority that suggest